All right. The second bullet here that we have that I want to talk a little bit about with identifying essential components is specific techniques that I've used and will use to assist teachers. Currently, I use a variety of instructional strategies in both classrooms and with peer coaches, including research-driven instruction, different types of formative and summative assessment, helping teachers and giving teachers tools for their toolboxes, which are really important in working with a variety of students. And then I have a strong knowledge of best practices in secondary classrooms. I've been around secondary classrooms for 9 years now, having had the opportunity to host students, teach at the post-secondary level, has given me the chance to do a lot of research and implement a lot of different things in my classroom, which have been successful, as well as helping peer coaches implement things and try new strategies in their classroom. For example, teachers wanted to use technology in communication, so we used wiki spaces, right? Or we've used blogs, those kind of things to help implement and bring best practices to the kind of ever-changing students. And then identify strong social studies content by the use of multiple perspectives and critical thinking. This question asks us to be content specific, and so the fact that I've taught social studies in Baxter for 5 years, I taught it part-time for 4 years before that. The big thing is that you can identify essential components, including the depth and breadth of the specific topic in social studies. How deep are you going? How wide are you going? What perspectives are you presenting? If you're just teaching in social studies the white man's history, you're missing the boat. Students are not getting what they need to, and that's definitely not an essential component. The other thing is you need to make sure that you're looking for in social studies and in any classroom, how are you connecting to learning targets? How are you connecting to your essential questions? What are the standards and where do they fit in? And with social studies, provide students with the opportunity to make connections between the past and present. Allow students to analyze, synthesize, make predictions. Those are all important in Bloom's taxonomy in creating essential components to reaching the standards that students need. And then the last one there is just align curriculum with social studies standards, especially the new ones. They're more specific, same with NGSS and science, which develops instructional and assessment with in mind. So you need to make sure that you're planning that assessment before you're just going out there and teaching something. And so if you're bouncing all over the place, you're pinballing, you're not having any sort of spending any time on what students need to do, giving students time to discuss, digest. Wait time is critical in identifying essential components in a class, as well as making sure that the content is being delivered in a variety of ways, not just teacher-led, not just student-led, but a variety that works within those IPI principles that we're all familiar with. Third question here, what is your role in ensuring teachers in the district curriculum? So district curriculum and planning is really important. That's what our professional learning has been about. That's what our 5-year strategic plan has been about. So I want to make sure that I collaborate with teachers and administrators to identify where they're at on the spectrum in terms of that strategic plan. Develop and support teachers' work on Atlas. Develop strong learning targets. Make sure that they're developing essential questions and aligning with the core curriculum and the vision of Baxter. We talk about teaching for one student at a time, right? And making sure that students are truly getting what they need. And that's important to make sure that we're having that open and honest dialogue and we're collaborating together. I've currently been working through our peer coaching system to assist teachers in creating proficiency skills, scoring guides, instruction that's engaging at a higher level and higher levels of rigor in Bloom's taxonomy, as well as making sure we're closing those achievement gaps. Like I mentioned before, I worked predominantly with CTE teachers, special education teachers, the teachers who have very limited standards, and we've gone ahead and made some very strong proficiency scales, really strong rubrics that align with assessment and align with those core ideas. And we've seen quite a bit of student growth in closing their achievement gap and lacking skills, especially in the special education arena. And then the biggest thing is making sure that we're communicating to parents, making sure we're communicating to the other teachers in the district, making sure that we're aligning what we're doing with the district and the state expectations. Those are important to get students and teachers on the same page and make sure that we're all effectively engaged in moving students forward and growing our students and what they do when they leave Baxter. And then the movement of teachers and their curriculum from good to great. That's something that we've talked quite a bit about in Baxter. How do we go from good to great? How do we move from being a good school to a great school in terms of extracurricular instruction, those sort of things? And so one thing that I think is really important is collaboration in cross-curricular building level and PLC work. There has to be a driven focus. There has to be driven collaboration. There has to be an accountability piece. And oftentimes that's missing. So the biggest plan here in terms of making sure that teachers are on board with that is, what are you doing in those times? How are you working together? What's your reporting mechanism look like? making sure that we're giving teachers that chance to be reflective, to be there to support that reflectivity, but making sure that they're open and honest with themselves, as well as what's going on during those times that the district is giving us to work and develop as teachers. And the other thing is just giving the opportunity to teachers to facilitate, have common planning opportunities, take on leadership roles, all of those things. And the other thing is having true PLC time. How can we sit together as a group and develop our curriculum to make sure that it's matching and make sure we're not teaching dinosaurs 7 times. We do have Atlas, that's important. It's also equally important that we're making sure that we know what we're teaching in our classrooms, that we have open and honest conversations about where are you at? Where did you get on this topic? How close are you to covering the standard? Did your students meet the standards? Those sort of times, I really feel a peer coach could be instrumental in making sure that teachers are on the same page, making sure that teachers are moving their instruction, moving their assessment, and moving students. That's the most important part of this teacher leadership program, is making sure that we're there to serve our teachers and our students. And with that comes the idea of SRG and SBG, and I've currently been working on this for 3 years now, maybe even more. I was on the original team that piloted this, that did some of the research, that went and saw the initial SBG SRG conference. I've been involved in this since the beginning. I've been piloting in my room. I've had the ups and downs, the pitfalls, those sort of things. I've attended the conference. That's part of my work in my doctoral program, along with the Solon principal Nathan Weir. We've done some work with SRG and SBG. And what does that look like in a building? How do you communicate that to parents? What's that look like in individual classrooms? And so making sure that I'm supporting that implementation through collaboration, support, development. What do teachers need? Where are teachers at? Everybody's going to be on a different page when it comes to SRG and SBG. So making sure to communicate with the administration, making sure we're building our proficiency scales, our scoring guides, making sure that we're consistent across classrooms. Those are the important parts of my role as a peer coach in supporting SBG and SRG. And to kind of tie right in that, the fourth question asks about differentiation among staff. Staff is really similar to students. We're all over the board. Some of us have been around for 25 years. Others of us are just starting. And so you have to be able to have conversations, build relationships, and create transparent classrooms. And that's important, is to be active. You can't tell what a teacher is doing if you're not in their classroom, if you're not helping out, if you're not having conversations. And that's important. So ask teachers what they need and why. Create trust with all teachers. And the biggest thing to doing that is follow through. And that's one of the things that I try to make sure that I'm on top of and that I want to continue to improve, is following through with feedback, suggestions, and assistance. Not saying I'll get to it later, but making sure that I'm on top of it from the get-go, which creates focused collaboration, designing and growing all of the teachers' abilities. Survey teachers, ask them to be reflective and self-evaluate, create the excitement for the opportunity to grow. This isn't a system that's just going to lay by the wayside, but how do we make it better? How do we improve? And then understand where teachers are at and where they're coming from. And then make sure you're persistent, because some teachers aren't willing to sit down and work with you on an open basis. And how do you help them? How do you make sure you get through to those teachers? And that's encouraging honest self-evaluation, setting goals, making sure that your benchmarks are there for individual teachers and in your coaching cycles. Those are all important things to make sure you're meeting all levels of the staff. And finally, the importance of a strong partnership with your administration. And that's something that needs to be done almost immediately, right? You need to start working on that as soon as the ball is put in your court. And that's building relationships based on honesty, follow through, strong communication skills. So you want to meet regularly, time to work collaboratively on district building and personal initiatives. Be an effective change agent, support the educational work of the principal, but also be active in communicating a network and creating conversations about self-reflectivity, ways I can get better, improvement in how our district can get better. The other thing that I think is truly important is not to just be a yes person, but to make sure you offer alternative solutions and outside-the-box approaches to problems that arise within our teachers. Supporting district and building initiatives, but offer alternatives to motivate, engage, and pursue with the staff. Create fun and engaging ways. We already do that quite a bit here, but creating more opportunities for teachers to get together and talk, those kind of things. Make sure you're approaching your situations with passion and resolve the issues collaboratively. Work together. Open, honest dialogue. Create strong communication in your building. And finally, celebrate those things. Create opportunities to learn and celebrate them. So those are some things that I think are really important in terms of the peer coaching position and answering your 5 questions. And I really appreciate you taking the time to sit and listen to me discuss what I would bring to the table as a peer coach. I thank you for your time, and I'm looking to work with you in the future. Thank you very much.